This was their only crime, telling soldiers to their faces that they preferred them to the current administration. Now the Tinubu administration is charging them for treason just because they had the audacity to troop out in their numbers to protest that they are hungry. This is unprecedented in Nigeria's history. It is beyond ridiculous. Even military regimes in the past never charged protesters for treason. The mere fact that people are chanting Tinubu must go is born out of frustration. Like the saying goes, one cannot block the road, refuse to pass, and refuse others from passing. He must yield to one. The policies of the current administration have impoverished Nigerians. They have diminished the purchasing power. As a result, Nigerians are poorer than they were more than a year ago. So they have the right to express their hunger and talk to the government in the manner that they will hear them and understand, hoping that they will yield to their demands. And one of the ways of talking to the government is by protesting. Protesters flying banners written "End Bad Governance" is not a crime. They have a right to free speech as guaranteed under a democracy. Or are we no longer under a democracy? They should make it clear, because even under military regimes, like already said, this kind of harassment and intimidation wasn't obtainable. It started before the protests, and during the protests, the current administration agents are trying very hard to criminalize protests. It's like smacking a child and still want to prevent him from crying. You can't have it both ways. You can't eat your cake and have it. The worst part is that people in power today protested their way to power. They were on the streets of Nigeria from 2012 till the election of 2015. No one intimidated them. No one charged them for treason. Upon all the messages they spread at the time, all the banners, to the extent that some of them carried mock coffins of the then President Goodluck Jonathan. Upon all this, they were still given a free hand because the government at the time understood that it was born out of frustration. People trooped out in numbers at the time because of the increase in petrol price.
Not enough that they are stealing from our children tomorrow for lack of investment in education. They are still embezzling the retirement benefit of hardworking Nigeria, including our grandfathers. They are stealing the port, the treasury, not even leaving some coins for us to war with. Let them be out now.
Compare that to what is happening today. Petrol is being sold for more than 1,000 naira across many cities in Nigeria. When Nigerians protested last month, the government responded by arresting more than 2,000 people, and they have taken it to a ridiculous level by charging more than 10 people, including a British national, for treason. The penalty for treason in Nigeria is death. So Tinubu truly wants to execute Nigerians because they protested against hunger, against his bad governance. Unless the government can prove that these people actually conspired, plotted with armed groups or soldiers to execute a military coup against Tinubu to remove him from power. If they can't prove this, then there is no treasonable felony. Besides, the people that committed coup in Nigeria are walking free today. The INEC chairman and other political associates committed a political coup against the Nigerian people. When Nigerians protested and went to court to demand that they interpret the Nigerian constitution the way it's supposed to be interpreted, the judges not only mocked and laughed at them, they executed their own judicial coup against the people of Nigeria. Today, all of them that are supposed to be charged for treason, of course no one can charge them because the main beneficiary cannot charge people who put him there, and the same beneficiary is now charging peaceful protesters. Maybe they were not peaceful, but at least the government should endeavor to charge them for what they did. Yes, some of the charges reflect violence, that they looted and destroyed property, but including treason to the charges is beyond absurd. Tinubu and APC specialize in chasing shadows, propaganda and diversion. The fact that people are calling on the military should make them to appease the people. Try and find out their immediate problems and solve them. Nigerians are nice people. There are many countries where all that is tolerated in Nigeria will never be tolerated. Nigerians are not asking for much, they are only saying that they are hungry. Palliatives are not sustainable. Giving them rice, beans, or anything to eat is not sustainable. Try and solve the root cause of the hunger, but instead of doing this, they resort to bribing their leaders to stop them from protesting. When that didn't work, they now started arresting and intimidating them. And now they've raised it to another level by charging them for treason. In other words, they're trying to tell future protesters, are you planning to come out to protest? The other people that protested are now facing treason and you know the penalty is death. Don't come out to protest. But will that work? During the last nationwide hunger protest, many people were openly chanting that they rather die on the streets by bullets of policemen than die at home of hunger. So a lot of people have already crossed that line of fear. They are no longer afraid of the government or whatever they plan to do to them. As can be seen in this video, how brave protesters led by this young man stormed the government house despite the heavy presence of security personnel.
They even said that they will kill me. If I'm afraid of killing, why should I come out?
The more they use brute force and intimidation against Nigerians, the more the Nigerian people's resolve hardens. This is like the colonial era all over again. The more the colonial masters intimidated, imprisoned, and punished Nigerians, the more Nigerians kept coming back. They never gave up until they were granted independence. So Nigerians will never give up until they get another independence from Tinubu. Absolute power intoxicates. They don't seem to realize that power is transient. Take Abacha for instance. He had all he could ever ask for in the world. He had access to the central bank. He could simply call the central bank governor to bring cash to him. Cash as huge as billions of dollars. He had all this. Even the Pope came to Nigeria begging him to leave power, but he refused. A few weeks later, death came knocking on his door. So today they feel that they are untouchable, that they are even invincible, that no one can do anything to them. But that's not what counts. What counts is what you use the power for. How you use that power to the benefit of the people. The question Tinubu and people around him should be asking is, what have they done with the power they have today? How have they positively affected the lives of Nigerians with the enormous powers they have? The way he has captured the National Assembly, the judiciary, and every other thing in Nigeria, no one has ever done it in Nigeria's history. So Nigerians will look back and remember and say, this man had all the powers. He could just instruct the National Assembly to make a particular law and it will be done within hours. He could call on the judiciary to deliver a judgment in favor of the government and it will be done immediately. So the question is, what are they doing with the enormous powers disposable to them? If Obasanjo had these kind of powers, he would have done more for Nigerians. Even some military regimes don't have this kind of power. They have opposition within the military ruling council to the extent that they have to vote on some issues in order to reach an agreement. There's a kind of revolutionary change a leader would like to introduce to his country. But because people are opposed to change, not because they have made any research to find out if the change will bring positivity to their lives, but simply because they don't want to jump into the unknown. They are happy with their current situation. As such, they feel that it doesn't need to be fixed. If it's not broken, don't fix it. So these kind of enormous powers are needed in such situations. The question remains, what are they doing with the enormous powers they have? Instead of using these powers to oppress and intimidate Nigerians, or using it to their own benefit to loot the country's treasury, they rather use these enormous powers to cause revolutionary change in Nigeria, to leave an indelible mark in Nigeria that generations to come will always look back and remember and thank them for it. Thanks for watching.